Hi, I'm Jennifer and this is Emily and we're from Porcelynne, and I am going to do today a tutorial on this is the Emma tank. So this has just been renamed. So this was the Tankini add-on. This is now, the bottom part is now named, has an official name. It's now called the Emma tank add-on. And this has a cute little hidden pocket. This is made with a complete zip down front. With a shield behind it, so you won't get anything caught when you're zipping. This is also designed kind of to be a little bit snugger because it is completely double layered throughout the entire thing. So we have, and all the seams are basically sewn together. So we had to do a special construction on this one. So the construction on this is a lot different than the one with the Kristen. And the reason for that is because of this pocket. We had to do a completely different order of construction. But here I just used the Christina straps, the Christina front, and this is the new back that I have added to the Emma tank. So we have now, if you've already purchased this one, you can actually go in and just re-download the pattern and it will have the new back. And it also has some slight grading changes on the hip, so it will fit a little bit snugger on the small sizes and possibly a little bit bigger on the real large sizes. But in general, all the ones in the middle are the same, but it has a great little peekaboo in the back and it is completely clean finished on the inside, except for the armholes. So it has no rubbing of any seams, which is really lovely. This one is, I would say, an advanced level sewing. So if you have not made any of the sports bras or the tanks, start with something that pulls over the head before you jump into the zipper. An easier one with the zipper would be the Kristen tank add-on. The construction is a little bit more straightforward. But there you go, enjoy it. So if you're going to be doing the full zipper that goes from the top of the sports bra down to the hem of the tank, you'll be using the shield. Now, the shield is not something that is really you can use right out of the box. So I'm going to show you a couple alterations we have to do to the pattern. Now, this works with both the Tankini and the Kristen. So both of the tank add-ons, this will work for. So the first thing we need to understand is that there is 3/4 inch seam allowance at the bottom of this garment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw this back in. Where is it? I'm going to draw the 3/4 inch at the bottom, just so we have kind of a placeholder. I'm also going to mark at the very top, we have a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, so that's 10 millimeters or a centimeter, however you want to do it. So I'm just going to mark right here at 3/8 of an inch, and then I'm also going to do that right here, actually, so right there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I am just going to kind of line these right up, and I'm just, so I'll put a piece of tape, but I don't have a piece of tape in front of me, so I'm going to pin that right there. So we actually know that this shield needs to be as long as this, so we actually have to extend this. So you could use the existing shield that's for the Jackie, but you don't have to. So the way this is that at the very bottom, this folds up. Oh, you don't buy me a piece of tape. Thank you, sweetie. Okay, so at the very bottom, this folds up. So it's kind of folded in half, and then it folds up to be at the tab. Now this fold line, it's going to fold right here. So right at this seam line. I don't need another piece of tape, sweetie. Oh, not yet. I will. You can bring the whole tape back over here. So there's a few things we need to consider. This is what we're going to say is at the bottom. So this one is going to be lined up right here, and this has a seam allowance at the top. I'm like, why is this so complicated? Well, I couldn't really do just a simple shield because of the complexity and the size range of the top. So this is a little different. So what I've done is I've now marked where this comes to here. And all we need to really do is add enough top to line up to the top piece. So I'm just stick a piece of tape. You got that tape there? Thank you, sweetie. And I'm just going to take and I'm going to extend these lines up side. So kind of making sure that they're square. And then I'm just going to make sure, I'm going to line that up right to that seam. And then at the very top, just going to mark right there. Take that across. And that is my full shield. So now I can just take, let me get a piece of tape for the back. Thank you, baby. That's really small pieces of tape. Can you give me another one? You don't need to give me, yeah. It's like, thank you, you're very helpful. And I may need a second one on this one. So then I'm just gonna cut this up, and so now my shield for the entire tank is ready. Now this will vary, this length will vary depending on the cup size and the band size. So this is really kind of customizing it to kind of just extend this pattern and make it a little bit more usable. Okay, so now we can prepare this. Now at the bottom on here, what we want to do is, because we've been sewing everything at 3/8 of an inch, I don't want us to get a little confused here. I want us to change this down here to that 3/8 of an inch, the 10 millimeters. So I'm just going to take and draw that in, and I'm going to cut this off. So for the pocket tank, we don't have to worry about altering the side pattern. If for the Kristen tank, we will actually need to alter the patterns on the other front pattern pieces to all be the same as this. I'm stuck. Can you move it? It's stuck on the back. Thank you. Okay. And that's how we alter the front to be used using a shield. So I'm starting with a 24-inch zipper for the full zip down, and we need to figure out exactly where we need to shorten it. So I have my altered shield pattern, and so what I want to do is I'm going to come down here at the bottom where this little V is, and I'm going to mark 1/4 of an inch from the point of that V, and then that, so if we were to take, and we can just kind of square a line straight across, this is where the bottom of the front is, and this is where the top of the front is. So if we were to take our zipper and go from end to end, well, this is about where we need it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and we're going to be shortening our zipper. So I'm actually going to take and shorten it. Let me move. Actually, let me mark it on here. So with it on here, so with that line to that line and up here, I'm going to take and I'm going to mark the top of this. So this is the absolute longest this zipper can be. Now when we actually sew it, we'll probably try and have it so there's a little bit of space at the bottom, but we have a little bit of room to play. So now I've got that. So I'm going to take and come in here and cut at that point, kind of at that tooth. And then what we want to do is we want to remove at least 1/2 inch, probably closer to about 5/8 of an inch, about 15 millimeters. So on this is a number 5 zipper, so we can remove 5 of the teeth. And I would recommend the plastic molded teeth as opposed to the spiral. So I'm going to cut off 5. I'm just going to cut the tips off first. And I'm just using some little cutters. Now we got to be careful taking these off. Sometimes, and look, they'll just pop right off. The rest of it will pop right off on the one side. And see, that popped off beautifully. Okay, so on this side, I'm going to take and I'm going to cut off 5 as well. So do that so I have a better.
You might want to wear safety goggles too.
Well, I've got glasses on, so those are my safety goggles. So yes, probably take care of your eyes. Okay, so I got 5 of the tips cut off. Let's see if I can pop the rest of those pieces off. Oh, yeah, beautiful. Sometimes they come off a little bit easier. No, sometimes they come off easier than others. My daughter's trying to give a little commentary over here. Okay, oh. And we want to get these off because we don't want to be sewing through them and causing any problems. So Ah, look, okay, all are off. Now my table is a mess. So now we have, you want to get a couple zipper stops. And I actually got a huge batch of these. And if you get any of the kits with the zippers from me, I'll give you 2 of the zipper stops. So what we need, I've got this is a little jewelry kit of supplies. So I'll probably just use these ones. So, sometimes takes 2 hands to do it. So right above where we removed all the teeth, I can then take and pinch over the edge, and then you can see it actually stopped it. And I'll do one over here. But I can't hold on to them. That's the problem.
They look very tiny.
They are pretty tiny. But these are the number 5, so. Okay, and then I got that one there. So we are stopped. Zipper stops. Okay, now we are ready. To put the zipper in and have a clean finish, for this one this is the order of construction we have to do. We're actually going to be assembling the top centerpiece to the bottom centerpiece. Now we can't assemble the entire top and the entire bottom and put it together, because on this one, the pocket tank, the pocket is actually kind of, it has its own lining built into it. So we have to do the construction a little bit differently than we would think. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach these pieces together on both the shell and the lining. Now we have these 2 pieces. Now I have in the instructions that you can interface them. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I still don't have any interfacing. I keep forgetting to order it. It will work okay. It just will be a little bit floppy. For my own sample, I'm not worrying too much about it, just because I'm probably going to wear this one in the pool anyways. So what we're going to do is with the right side together, fold it over, and then we are going to stitch this little short bit right here. So this seam allowance that you're going to be sewing right here is only 1/4 inch. So that's 6 millimeters. Everything else on here is going to be sewn with 3/8 of an inch, which is 10 millimeters. So we're going to do the same thing on this bottom one. So we're going to take and fold this, and this should also be interfaced. And this seam right here, so we're going to do the slant. And so this is going to be 1/4 inch, so 6 millimeters over here. I'm going to go ahead and sew all of these, and then I'll be back over here to get on the next step. Okay, so we have our pattern, our front. Okay, we have the linings. So that's going to be on this side, and this one's over on this side. And then we have our shield, and did I drop the other little thing? Okay, so this one we're going to take, and we need to flip this right side out. And this gets to be attached to the top right here. So we're going to take and sew this. This is going to get stitched right here, so then it flips open to be the tab at the top. So this piece is going to be stitched at 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to do this with a straight stitch because we're going to be stitching over this again with the zipper. So we're going to get that one done. This side is going to have the other side of the zipper. So this side is going to have both the shield So right, this is on top of the other. So now we need to put the shield to play. So fold that right side out. And I'm just gonna put a pin in there right now. Okay, so now I'm gonna look at this one. Now we want a clean finish on the inside. So what I'm gonna do is, well, we actually need to do a couple things first. This top bit, because this is gonna go at the very top on the inside, I'm just gonna go ahead and just pin this closed right now. I'm gonna stitch this with the straight stitch and I'll be right back. It's a little bit tricky in this order that we have to do, but we'll do this first. So in order to get this on here, well, we kind of have to have it stitched so it comes up. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky in order to do this right. So we're going to take this so then our right sides are facing each other right here. And I am just going to stitch up the bottom of this hem at that 3/8 inch seam allowance, because that's what we removed at the bottom, because it would have been 3/4. So I'm gonna sew this up. We're gonna do the other side a little differently. So I said I'm gonna go ahead and I'll stitch this closed. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm now gonna take this black side, front and center, and then I'm gonna do this so I've got the right side of this tab Now we are not stitching the top, so if you need to take that out, I just kept that there for that fold. And then we're going to line this up down the front on the lining with the seam edges all lining up. So there'll be 3 edges together. So this layers up onto the front. I'm going to take and I'm going to stitch this down. So because I'm going to be sewing the zipper on here, I'm not going to overlock this. I'm going to just straight stitch it on here at my seam allowance, which is this 3/8 inch. So we still have that tab at the end of this one. Then we're going to come all the way down. So here. So now we have the shield on the lining attached to this. Okay. So my zipper is now ready to go into this before we move on to the next step. So I'm going to take, and we got to make sure we keep it on the correct side. So that's going to go on the other piece. If you want to put a pin kind of on the side facing up, so this is the side that's going to face up, that way you don't get too confused. Okay, then I'm going to open this bit, and we're going to take, and actually, so it's facing up, I'm going to fold back the top up here, and it might have been better if I had removed closer. I think I only removed about 1/2 inch, probably should have removed about 6 teeth instead of 5. So I just kind of have it folded over, and that's on the front side. You can, of course, do it on the other side. And then we're going to take and line this up on this piece. So you can see the reason why I've got the lining there is because this is going to get stitched also. And so we want to double check and kind of see, okay, we don't want this to come down below. You can see where that black line is. That's at the bottom. It can come and sit a little bit above it. It can sit right about it. But I think that should be good. So that'll sit kind of right at that fold. And then I'm just going to go in and pin this in. Just kind of hold it in place. And then I'm going to go in with my zipper foot and stitch this down at 3/8 of an inch. And right here, I kind of have a little thing right there, so I'll just trim that bit. And if for some reason your fabric stretches a little bit, you can kind of ease it back at this point. And so this should end a little bit about here. So we'll have that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So then we have a little gap at the top. So if we wanted to, we could bring this up just a little bit more. And if we do bring it up a little bit more, we just need to kind of scoot the zipper down a little bit. We just want to make sure that we don't stretch this center bit, and actually that looks fine. So I just have about 3/8 of an inch at the top. I'm going to stitch this down, and it's not quite folded where I want it to be. So there we go. Folded it a little bit better now. Okay, and so this is going to be the piece on the other side. So we can go ahead and prepare this the same way. So this one, we fold this over. So we know that's the up side, so right side to left side. So we can line these pieces up at the top so we can see exactly where they're going to line up. And then right here, clip that a little bit. I can take that pin out now. And as long as you don't do any pulling, you know, everything should line up. So the part that we're going to be most concerned with is this piece right here, this seam. And we'll be able to probably fudge it a tiny bit. So we definitely want to get this in. And so this should have a little bit more than, because should be right at the bottom, which means we have that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance right there. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hold off on that bit. I'm going to sew this piece at the bottom, clean finish the bottom here. It'll just get me a better corner with working with that. So I'm going to stitch this with my overlock. I'm going to stitch this with my straight, and as soon as I have that done, I'm going to continue this and pin this so it lines up, and then stitch this with the straight. And I will be back with all 3 of those stitches. So this one, and this one. Okay, I have my zipper in, and I'm not going to lie, I had to seam rip this side, I think twice. The first time this didn't line up, and then after I fixed that, then I managed to stretch this fabric out. So I really would recommend you kind of doing a little strip of interfacing on the fabric just to kind of keep it from stretching. This isn't that big of a deal. It is likely this will shrink back over time. So it won't look so stretched out, but I did stretch it quite a bit. Okay, so now what we can do is I zipped it up to make sure it worked. We can separate it right now. And then we can take and we can finish, see all my little threads. So fold this up. So we've got the tab facing out on the top, and you have the shield facing out. So we have kind of that nice clean finish. We can line up this seam right here. And this right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean finish our front neckline. So I'm going to take and line up my pattern pieces for the front neck. So that way it's completely clean finished, right? Because we've got that right sides together. So you're not wondering what's going on. We're going to be clean finishing this curve with the tab out and the shield out. So we're going to go across here. Now I am going to sew elastic into this to kind of help firm up the neckline. Let me get this next piece prepared. So with the right sides together, we can open this up. And we're going to do our neckline over here. So we're just going to line up the neckline. There's no tab or anything on this. I don't know if you can hear my daughter's violin in the background. Okay. For this one, this is the Christina. So I'm just going to take and I'm going to add my elastic here, And what I usually like to do on the front neckline, nowhere else really, is to do an understitch. And that's where you take the seam allowance and fold it back to the lining, and then I'm just zigzagging it on there. So I'm going to do these 2 steps, and then I'll be back and we can work on the rest. This one I went ahead and I already did with my understitch. Of course things shifted and it didn't line up, but hey, it's going to be kind of hidden. It's mine. Doesn't matter. Okay, so now we have the pocket piece. So I've taken and I have folded my top piece under. Now you can clean finish these if you want. For this one, I'm really not. You know, you could take and fold under, and I think I might have that in the other set of instructions, but I'm just folding it that way. The piece is underneath, so this is the right side facing here, this is the wrong side facing here, and I have these folded up. So I went ahead and just kind of pinned them all in place. And what we're going to do is we need to actually assemble this piece to the blue, and then the black piece to the other one. I'm going to now sew these seams together, and then we'll do the next step. So the easiest way to actually put this together, because we've got this little pocket, is to actually treat these as one piece. So I'm going to actually pin them together, overlock them on the edges, both sides, and then I'm going to sandwich this one in between those 2 pieces. And then we can finish up our zipper. So I'm looking right here. I want to take and I want to line up my seam. And then we line these pieces up to where they overlap rather. Keep those pins there. Keep these pieces together. Okay, so if you are working with, let's say you're doing the laurel and it needs to finish in the neckline, what I would do is take your 2 pieces, because we have them still attached, and then you want to kind of clean finish your neckline on this, clean finish your neckline on this, and then we'll just attach them together. So it won't be as clean of a finish, or you can take and we can fold over elastic on it. But for this one, we're going to take and we're going to overlock these edges together, and when I'm done with that, we'll bring it back so we can pin it together and finish up this piece. We can now take and we can sandwich these between each other. So I'm going to take my right side of this to the right side of this. So kind of flip it right side out. And I'm just going to go ahead and pin this one in before I deal with the other layer. So we have the one side in there, and then we're going to take and we're going to sandwich this piece in between. So we can still get it right side out because of the zipper. So we start at the bottom because that's where you can see it actually folds up. We can take, gonna find the seam. Okay, we now have both of these sandwiched, this one and this one. So I'm going to stitch this, and then I'll come back and we'll finish up the zipper portion. Okay, so we can just take a double, take a look to see how it is. So far it looks pretty good. We have our zipper in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to clip any threads because we're going to be closing this up. So there's probably one down in here. I don't think there's anything else in there. Okay, see if there's anything in this one. Okay, we'll start with the one with the shield. So what we want to do is we're going to take and we're just going to fold this, basically fold it closed. Line it up so the seam on here kind of matches where that seam is on the other piece. Pin this in place. And then you can take and you can stitch in the ditch right along the edge of this zipper. So stitch that one. And then for this one, it's not as easy, but it's a similar step. Basically, we fold this in, we fold the other one in. So if we take and just kind of fold that in at probably about that 3/8 of an inch where it was sewn. Just kind of fold it under. And then what I would do is let's then take it over, let's pin it over this side, and we can feel that where we want to sew it. I'm going to pin it right where I want to sew it to make sure it's going to be pinching, catching the seam. So it's going to be a stitch in the ditch. So I can take this one out. And then we can stitch in the ditch on both pieces, and the front is done. For the back, we are going to do, we have 2 layers, so we have our lining and our self of the side back. We have 2 layers of the top back, so we have the lining and the self, and I'm doing a little bit of color blocking. And then we have 2 layers on the center back. So we have got the lining and the self. So I'm going to first start by placing my right sides together. Let's see, this is the right sides. So right sides together, and you can see I did seam rip because I'm redoing this part of the video. So I'm just going to go and so you'll see little threads here and there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean finish this swoop of the back. So this is, so be careful to line them up. Now for this one, I am going to just sew with the overlock. Now you can easily use elastic on this one. I didn't find it as necessary, but if your fabric is really, really stretchy, you may want to use some elastic just so you can kind of tug it a little bit so it'll keep the shape with this scoop. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to overlock this, and then I will be right back for the next step. Okay, so this is back. This is finished. So I'm going to flip this so it is right side out. And then I'm just going to pin my neckline. Just kind of pin it in place so everything kind of stays put. So now that we've completed this, we need to clean finish and sandwich this within this. So I've got my right side, I'm going to face my right side towards it. So I'm going to pin this piece here. And then I'm also going to wrap this around, and I'm going to pin this one on this side. Okay, once I have that, I'm then going to take it and we need to sandwich this between those so I can then pin the lining in here as well. So we've got 4 layers we're going to be sewing through. Okay, once we have all those, then I'm going to just pin the rest of this curve, the seams together. And I think I feel some pins that are gonna probably get in the way when I'm sewing. So I'm gonna hit there, that one there. Okay. So I am now going to sew this bit at my 3/8 inch seam allowance. And then I will be back so we can work on the side back. Okay. So now this piece is about ready. Now what we can do here is we can actually kind of do a clean finish on the neckline. Now this is going to be a little tricky because we can try and do a burrito roll, but this is a lot of fabric, plus I've pinned it all together. So this could be a little bit tricky up here. So we can do the burrito roll, but I'd probably say at this point we need to remove our pins. So I'm going to end up having to repin this. So that was a step I didn't need to do previously because I don't want to be poking myself. So, and we'll see how well this works. So I'm basically going to roll this fabric up, take this one, wrap it around. We're going to come up here so we can then sew our necklines. So you can see if you're working with a really thick fabric, like if you're working with a scuba, you will not be able to do this. So you're going to need to probably just take and kind of stitch on the outside edges and fold it in. There are other ways you can do this. This is just the way I like to show. So this will clean finish the neckline. Now this neckline, I do suggest you put elastic in. So you do have a lot of fabric in here, so you got to be careful that you don't catch it as you're sewing it. So I'm going to be sewing a piece of elastic on at the same time as I'm sewing this. If it's too much for you to handle at one time, I would just overlock this first and then go back on a second, like on a second run and do the elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew this, and I will be back to work on the next step. Okay, so we have finished the neckline. I'm going to just pull this out. Hey, look, burrito. I have burrito rolled this top bit. You can certainly do a top stitch on here. What I didn't explain is that I actually sewed the elastic on the self side, so that way it forces the roll to the inside. Okay, so now we can actually go in and attach the strap of the front, but because we're not closing our armhole yet, I'm actually going to hold off because I can do that right now, but it can look like a big jumbled mess. So I'm actually going to add that, attach the strap here after I clean finish the sides. So now we're going to take, and we need to sew these over here. So I'm going to go back again, and remember how I had unpinned all those. I'm going to go back and just I'm actually going to pin them on the side because I need to be attaching this. So I'm just going to get a couple pins over here on the side to make sure everything lines up. Okay, and then I want to make sure that both of these line up all the way up to the armhole. And I can also just kind of stick a pin in there to make sure everything kind of folds right. I'll do that on this side as well. You notice all my heads are pointing off of the fabric. Makes it a lot easier to remove them and add fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to take, with my right sides together, I'm going to sew these. So you can see that they will look nice together when they're on here, but I actually now have to sew and have to pin a concave and a convex together. So I'm going to start up here. So I will be sandwiching this piece with the front and back, but I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to pin this one on here and then do the other one, then do the lining. Okay, now we're ready to sandwich these pieces together. So I'm looking at my right side. So this is a right side. So I'm going to do that, right? Am I doing this right? Yes. I think so. Yes, I'll be doing, okay, so, yes, I'm doing that right. So the right side is now facing this side. So now I'm just going to continue and come back up here and pin, since I've already got the other piece, just carefully keeping everything together as you're pinning it. Okay, now I'm ready to sew these two seams, and I will come back and then we can continue on with finishing the front with the back. Okay, the back is pretty much done with the exception of adding the strap. Now, because the strap, we're going to be finishing the armhole, one of the last things we're doing. We can actually hold off and do the strap. Now, if you're doing the strap that is kind of separated, so it is attached with a ring in the front, then go ahead and add the strap. You could have added that already. Because this one is actually a fully finished strap, so this one is going to be attached to both the front and the back, I'm just going to wait for the kind of the last minute before I have to add it, because once I get things attached at the top, it just makes things a little bit more complicated to work around. Okay, so now I've got my front. Front's all done, and I'm going to detach them. Okay, I know I can detach it. There it is. Okay, we now need to work on trying to get, so you can see that I've got the strap on here. We now need to work on attaching the front to the back. Now, I like to do this with making a clean finish. And so we're gonna actually kind of do a burrito roll with this in between here. If your fabric is too thick, just go ahead and kind of sew your side seams all together at the same time. So you can see that this one has already been stitched, but I stitched this kind of ahead. I actually had to redo some of the back pieces. So you see some of the stitches still on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to one side, so not the lining. Lining this up here. I'm just going to attach the whole side, top to bottom, just pin it together. And then we can evaluate whether the burrito roll is going to work for this one. And you see I will have extra hanging down here, and that is going to happen. Okay. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to try and roll this all up and see if I can get this piece to pin. I said it's real bulky in here, and we don't want to we make sure we don't sew anything too much so things get caught where they're not supposed to be getting caught. And it looks like I do have enough room here. It's possible that some of the smaller sizes may not have this amount of room. In that case, just so you'll have a seam on the side seam. You can always cover it with binding or fold over elastic on the inside if for some reason it irritates you. I like to have clean finish on anything that's going to be really form-fitting, and this one's pretty form-fitting on me. I have pretty sensitive skin, so I like to make it so the seams are a little bit more enclosed than on most. So you can see I can do this on the one side. Just think when we have to do the other side, adding this to the burrito roll. So you may get one side down and not the other, but I said there's alternatives. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew this little strip, and then I'm going to come back so I can try and get the other one sandwiched on the other side. Okay, got my little sausage here. Pull it all out, or my burrito rather, so I now have that side completely finished, and you can see from my old stitches, and I'll be able to seam rip that out. Okay, now we want to see if we can do this other side. Now there is a good chance that I won't be able to, but we're gonna try it. We're gonna first pin this side, and if it's doable with the other piece, we'll do the other piece. Otherwise, I may have one enclosed seam on the side and not the other.
Which would look weird.
Well, it's on the inside. So it won't look like anything. You'll just know it. Okay, so now we will see about rolling this whole thing together. And it looks like I can still squeeze it.
Yeah.
I said it's gonna be a tight burrito.
I love to roll myself in a burrito. Tight one.
What?
I love to roll myself into a tight burrito.
You like to roll yourself into a burrito?
Yeah.
Yes,
so
I know. I've seen. You did that a lot on our trip last week.
Yeah, because I have more room.
It is a little bit tighter here, so I'm just sticking a couple extra pins in here just to kind of help it out. And it may be hard with home machines to try and get through all this and to really kind of get close in here. The industrials are a little bit more forgiving, so I can do a little bit more. And I'm also not working with real thick fabrics, so if you're working with real thick fabrics, there's no way you'll be able to do this. Okay, it's all pinned. Now I'm gonna go sew my burrito, and then we only have a few steps left. Okay, my burrito. Let's pull the burrito.
What does it look like?
Well, it was a burrito. Now it's a top. So you can see I've got the hips here. So everything is enclosed. Look, everything's clean finish on the inside. I said, oh, and not really. It looks like I missed up here. So this was this can happen. So because I don't know if I don't think I can clean finish this one, I'll probably just come in and I'll just catch this with the seam. And this is what happens because it was so thick. So I'm actually just gonna stitch. I'm gonna sew from here to right about here on the inside. So there'll be a visible seam on the inside right here. So I'll get that when I go back to the machine. Other things we need to finish. We need to finish this strap. So right here. And we will need to finish the armhole. So let's pull it. So I'm going to pull it so the right sides are all facing each other. And then we know we need to have this kind of sandwiched in between here. So we're going to have the blue, right, oops, wrong side. This side up to the green. So I can line this up and then fold this over. So I can go ahead and just get this one first. I said you could have done this already. That's not a problem. In the instructions, I have it sooner. But if you are sandwiching all the layers in, it may be easier to do it this way.
What, Sasha?
My cat is yelling for some reason. Yeah, I don't know, sweetie. Okay, so now we've got this side. We're also going to sandwich in here so I can put this together. And so I'm going to go fix that inside piece and finish up this strap with a straight stitch. Okay, so I'm going to sew the straps with a straight stitch, and I'm going to go in and fix that little bit I missed, probably with my overlock because it's just easy to do. And then I'll be back so we can finish up our necklines. Okay, only a few things left. I got that strap finished. So it looks like we have to finish our armhole. And we also need to finish our hem. Okay, so we'll do the armhole first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew elastic to the inside of the neckline and then fold it over to clean finish it. So I'm going to do that in one step. So I'm going to overlock elastic to the edge, and you do need elastic on here to help keep it from stretching out of place. So once I have that elastic on there, then I'm going to take and I'm going to roll it down and zigzag it closed. So I'm going to do this for both the right and the left, and then I'll come back and then we'll discuss how to finish the hem.
You can do her.
Okay, I need to finish. Okay, so I have finished up my neckline. See, I clean finished it, and I use black thread so you can see it. Kind of. I use black thread because I don't like to change my thread. So pretty much everything I sew is with black thread. Even things that are white, I sew with black thread. Okay, clip some threads.
What if it's black on black? You can't see it.
Black on, exactly. Most everything I make is black. I have very few things I do with the white. Okay, so almost it's complete. The last thing to do is the hem. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take I'm just going to overlock the edge and clean up these points. And once I overlock it, I'm going to then fold it and zigzag it so it ends up being kind of in line with what this is. So I'm going to do those 2 steps all at once. So I will be back with the finished top. Okay, so you can see I overlocked I zigzagged that hem up for the whole bottom, so the bottoms will line up. And we can get this all placed in the front. And you can see where I did my little patch job right there. Pop that open. Zip it up, pop that back. And there we go, the front is finished. And the back is finished.